Hello friends, this is a 2-mark question on DBMS and topic transaction and concurrency control. The question reads as follows: which of the following schedule is recoverable but neither strict nor cascadeless? And here we are given 4 different schedules. To answer this question, let us first understand what is a recoverable, strict and a cascadeless schedule. A recoverable schedule is a schedule in which all transactions commit only after all transactions whose changes they read commit. A cascadeless schedule is a schedule that disallows a transaction from reading uncommitted changes from another transaction in the same schedule. Whereas a strict schedule is a schedule in which for any pair of transactions T1 and T2, if write operation of T1 precedes a conflicting operation of T2, that is, if write operation of T1 precedes a read or write operation of T2, then commit of T1 also precedes that conflicting operation of T2. From this, we can say that any strict schedule is also cascadeless, but the converse does not hold. Similarly, any cascadeless schedule is also recoverable, but not the converse. Now, using these definitions, let us try to figure out which of the given schedule is recoverable but neither strict nor cascadeless. The schedule S1 in option A can also be written as follows. In this schedule, the write operation of transaction T1 conflicts with the write operation of transaction T2, and the transaction T1 does not immediately commits after the write operation. So, this schedule is not a strict schedule. Also, observe that both transaction T1 and T2 do not read any value written by the other transaction. So, this schedule is also cascadeless. And as we know, any cascadeless schedule is also recoverable. So, schedule S1 is also a recoverable schedule. Since this schedule is not cascadeless, option A is wrong. Now, let us look at the schedule S3 in option C. Schedule S3 can also be written as follows. In this schedule, the write operation of transaction T2 conflicts with the write operation of transaction T1. However, the transaction T2 does not immediately commit after the write operation. So, schedule S3 is a non-strict schedule. In this schedule, none of the transaction read the changes written by the another transaction. So, this schedule is a cascadeless schedule. And as we know, a cascadeless schedule is also recoverable. So, schedule S3 is also a recoverable schedule. Since schedule S3 is not cascadeless, option C is also wrong. Now, let us look at the schedule S4 in option D. Schedule S4 can also be written as follows. In this schedule, the write operation on Y of transaction T1 conflicts with the read operation on Y of transaction T2. However, the transaction T1 does not commit immediately after the write operation. So, schedule S4 is not a strict schedule. In this schedule, the transaction T2 reads the uncommitted value of Y from transaction T1. So, this schedule is not a cascadeless schedule. Also, observe that though transaction T2 reads the value of Y written by transaction T1, transaction T2 commits before the transaction T1. So, by definition, this is not a recoverable schedule. Since schedule S4 is not recoverable, the option D is also wrong. So the correct answer to this question is schedule S2 in option B. The schedule S2 can also be written as follows. In this schedule, the write operation of transaction T1 conflicts with the write operation of transaction T2. However, transaction T1 does not commit immediately after the write operation. So, this schedule is not a strict schedule. Also, observe that the transaction T1 reads the value of X written by transaction T2, which is yet to be committed. So, whenever transaction T2 aborts, transaction T1 also need to be rolled back. So, this schedule is not a cascadeless schedule. However, schedule S2 is recoverable because transaction T1, which reads the value of X written by transaction T2, commits only after transaction T2 commits. So, we have schedule S2 as recoverable schedule. Since schedule S2 is recoverable and neither strict nor cascadeless, the correct answer to this question is option B. Thank you.